Hello and welcome back to the channel, and it's time to look at that most infamous Christmas special, the Star Wars one, of course, from 1978. We open up with using some reused footage from the film. Now this thing has a reputation for being absolutely terrible, and I actually don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is. It's not very good, definitely, but it's not quite the car crash that you would expect it to be from what you've heard about it so many times. The core main cast are all here for this one. I don't know whether it was something they were contracted specifically to do or whether it was in contracts they'd already signed, but you can kind of tell that nobody really is putting much effort into it. There are some other characters introduced, of course. We all know that Chewie's family is introduced, but there's some other random characters. I would say B. Arthur is probably the only other performer that most people would recognise these days, famously from the Golden Girls. But this little sequence is showing us all of our players. What were they thinking with Lumpy, really? Who designed that? There we go, there's B. Arthur. She has a segment based in the cantina. And the way this special is set up, it is lots of little segments kind of strung together with the excuse that characters are either talking to each other on video screens or they're watching videos on different things. It's a very bitty show, but then it is like entertainment, really. It's a variety show in a Star Wars skin. So like I say, here we have one of the characters watching a dance circus performance, which is quite trippy, very 70s. There is a plot of sorts in that Chewie and Han are struggling to get back to Chewie's home planet of Kashyyyk in time for Life Day, which is basically a Christmas Day stand-in. And there's a few issues with the Empire shutting down travel routes and declaring martial law for various reasons, and we do have some Imperials show up and cause trouble, but then they're quickly tricked. So here's one of the examples of basically a Zoom call, which we're all now used to in this day and age after the lovely couple of years that we've had recently. So this one is of course Mark Hamill as Luke and R2-D2, and this is the first time audiences would have seen Hamill with his kind of new look after he obviously had to have some reconstruction surgery due to an accident he was involved in. So I wonder whether some people got a bit confused at broadcast time and wondered, you know, was this a different actor? Because he does look quite different to how he had looked only the previous year when the film had, you know, the actual Star Wars had come out. The story does involve this shopkeeper character as being able to help out Chewie's family in some strange way. Now the one thing about this is it's the production value. That's what really stands out. It looks really cheap when it's obviously compared to its feature film. I don't know, what would the relationship be? When it's compared to the proper films, it looks so cheap and flimsy. There's lots of reused footage. Like this is Darth Vader's appearance, and it's just footage from the film that's been redubbed. It's actually quite hilarious that they actually did that. But I guess in that day and age you could probably get away with it a bit more because, you know, this is a year after the film had been out. People wouldn't have had it on home video. They wouldn't be able to remember exactly what it all looked like. You couldn't pretend that that was new footage, I assume. Interestingly, I think a lot of the stuff we see with the Wookiees ends up kind of getting adapted and made into what we would see later in Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks, like the tree houses and things. And here we have a futuristic space science fiction cooking show. It's almost like something out of Futurama. A lot of the chase sequence is reused. And another example of what I was saying about the budget, the cockpit scenes, it just isn't lit to the same level, so everything doesn't look as real and as believable, because that was the beauty of the original films, is everything looks believable, everything looks lived in. But this time around it feels much closer to Doctor Who on the BBC, just from that production standpoint, where there isn't obviously the budget to light things so well and all that kind of stuff. Here we have another one of those video conversations, and for some reason it seems to be Leia doing her tax returns before stopping to also have a chat with Chewie's family and worry about where Han and Chewie have got to, and are they going to make it in time. And here comes some Imperials to harass the family. Like I say, it's hard to put your finger on just all the different things that just feel so much cheaper in this production. But I can imagine if I was a kid back in 1978, I think I still would have loved watching this at Christmas time. Like, I mean, obviously it was just more Star Wars for you, and you know, this was the only extra content you were gonna get. I think the main problem with it, apart from the production values, is, like I say, it's all these little segments, and I think all of them just go on a bit too long, and that's the main issue. I genuinely think if you clipped it down running time wise and everything was a bit brisker and you moved from section to section quickly, it would be much better. Now, this animated segment is actually really cool. I like it. This animation, although again not the most expensive, is pretty cool. I like the design choices that they made, the art style of it. Now, this whole animated sequence, which is famous for introducing Boba Fett, that character, is on Disney Plus these days, so at the very least go and watch that, because you can watch that as an individual thing. So here is the B. Arthur segment, which is based in the Tatooine cantina, and it really is a good example of what I was saying about things just kind of going on too long, because it opens up with this whole sequence about the Empire has called a curfew and everybody has to leave the bar, and we see B. Arthur wandering around trying to convince people to leave, and literally about 5 times she says, "Oh, please leave. Oh, you're not leaving. Okay, you can stay. Have a drink on the house." And that happens again and again and again, until finally she starts singing a song and all the patrons do start drifting away. If you just had it as the setup of there's a curfew, people need to leave, sing the song, it'd be fine. But all the extra stuff just makes it too slow and ponderous. It's very strange. There is time to fit in a quick Wilhelm scream, a Star Wars classic, as that trooper goes over the ledge. Of course, Han and Chewie make it in time for the celebrations. Everybody gets together around the holy tree, the tree of life, whatever it is, and we get a little speech from Leia about hope and hope for the future, and then we close on Chewie handily remembering his adventures, which just means we get a few clips of the film tagged on at the end. So yeah, it's the holiday special. It's all over YouTube these days. It's no longer lost to media if you do want to check it out. Like I say, it's not as bad as you might be led to believe, but it's not great. I would just watch the animated sequence and leave it at that, because like I said, that's separate on Disney Plus. So check that out. But otherwise, there we go, the infamous Star Wars holiday special. We'll see you in the new year.